Good morning, Giants. It's about 7:40 in the morning. I was up until about 2, 3 in the morning last night, thinking about things. Obviously, I've got a lot on my mind for my, not obviously, I've got a lot on my mind for my business. Was thinking about that and things that I could do. I didn't sleep very well. And so, in waking up, I thumbed through Facebook, the obvious choice of things to do, right, at 3 a.m. I saw a post from a friend of mine who last night in her neighborhood, she experienced somebody just lose their stuff. I mean, just completely angry, got in a fight, apparently bit somebody's finger off, went to jail, just just lost it mentally, just went AWOL. I've been looking through the posts and seeing a lot of people are starting to get angry about our current situation. And so I had the question, I was wondering about whether anger is a positive or a negative, and whether anger comes from love or from fear. And so researched it, wrote it down last night that I would look into it this morning, and here I am. I researched it this morning a bit and wanted to share kind of my thoughts and my view about anger. Here's my view: is there is not an emotion that we have that is useless. Every emotion that we have serves a purpose, and it's beneficial to us in some way. And before, in one of my videos, I mentioned I simplified it down to two emotions. Really, there's fear and love. And so when we think of anger is a useful emotion, and let me tell you why, when it's used within reason. Now, anger is an emotion. It's a secondary emotion. It's not a primary emotion. It bypasses pain. So when we feel pain, anger is what puts us into the fight mode. So it puts us back in control. It gives us power, and it allows us to attack. I mean, incredibly fast and swift. And so it's this tool, this emotion that gives us power to act on things. And so, I've seen on the internet, people talking about anger comes from love. Well, let's talk about that. Anger from love. The idea is that if we love somebody, if we care about them, then we'll get mad if something occurs. And that reminds me really along the lines of jealousy, lack of trust, fear that there's going to be some pain caused by their behaviors, so we get mad at them. Out of love, quote unquote, that we're doing it. We're mad because we love you. We're mad because we care. Well, the truth is that we're mad because we were afraid, and we were mad because we were hurt in some way, and so we attack because of that, not because we're in quote unquote love. And so anger isn't a love emotion. It's a response to pain. It's a response to a perception of loss. Anger has to be tied to a thought. It has to be tied to a thought about what's going on. Pain itself doesn't necessarily cause anger. I've been hurt, and I didn't get mad. I had a thorn in my foot this week, and it didn't make me mad. It hurt. So pain doesn't necessarily cause anger. But if you tie it to a thought, like that damn thorn, then it becomes anger. I look at some of the posts that are going on right now of people that are hurting financially with the virus. Yeah, the virus is a scary thing, and so people are angry because of others not following the guidelines that have been proposed, and so they get angry and they shame people, or they attack them. Because they're worried about what that might cause them, what pain that might bring on them. On the other side, we have people who feel like their freedoms are being attacked, and so they get spun up in the anger of you don't get to take away my freedoms. And so the thought is what triggers the anger. And so when you look at the physiological response of anger, it's really similar to stress, let's say anxiety and depression. And so more along the lines of anxiety, because anger is a fight response. So in anxiety, you have those four options: fight, flight, fear, or faint or fawn. And so anger is more the fight one. And so what occurs is when the thought, it goes through the thalamus, you have the perception of something, and it goes through the thalamus in the brain, and it decides, this is something to pay attention to. It hits the amygdala and it hits the hippocampus. And the reason it hits those two is that the amygdala fires the adrenaline, tells the body to fire the adrenaline in the body, and it shuts down the conscious brain so that you can go to work on it. And then the hippocampus brings up all the memories of why this is important. Sorry about my camera fading in here. And so the amygdala fires the adrenaline, and the hippocampus remembers. And so when you are in a fight or flight state, your emotions are intense. And so this is where people fly off the cuff, is they get angry at such an intense level because the adrenaline forces the emotions to a higher level. And so you're responding at a level you normally wouldn't. And then the hippocampus, it stores memory so that if this occurs again, you can be protected from it. And so the hippocampus is what tells you, yeah, this is something we should pay attention to. And so you've got this thing where you're afraid, and you attach that to this thought that triggers your adrenaline, and it just fires, and you're off, and you're angry because you're feeling pain and you're feeling like you're going to be hurt. And like Katrina, like you said, the thoughts are from fear. And so you're afraid. And so you act out. And what that does is it primes your body, so if it occurs again, you're quicker to respond from anger. And so it's crazy that, not crazy, it's awesome that our body does this, because anger gives us power and control in a situation where we feel like we don't have power and control. And so as a tool, it's very, very useful. Very useful. Otherwise, we wouldn't have it. It wouldn't be a survival technique. And so don't think that you need to get rid of anger. But anger should be used within reason. And so this is where you want to get back to your conscious thought as much as possible. And so to calm down and really count, people count to 10 for a reason. The first 6 seconds of the firing of the adrenaline in the body, you really do shut down. Your brain shuts down. So consciously, you are not in control. And so you want to just pause for a minute and try and get back conscious control. You can still feel that energy and that power come through, but you want to get your conscious control back so that you can reasonably look at the situation and see if it merits anger. Because you know what? Sometimes it does. Sometimes it takes anger for a situation to change. If we become complacent and somebody pushes, and we're feeling like we're losing our freedoms, or we're in pain, or we're going to be hurt, and again, this thought, then we want to be able to respond. And that's what anger does for us. Susan Anderson's book, she talks about grief. She talks about the swirl method, and how when there's loss, there's a cycle that we go through. There's a shattering of our lives, which we've all experienced through this. There's a withdrawal. Notice how all of us went inside, internal. We kind of went into our minds, and now it's like, what's going on? Internalizing, kind of thinking of ourselves, what's going on. And then comes the rage. And this is something people don't think about very often, is that the rage comes when there's loss. And so the anger is going to be present. And so feel that. Let it flow through you. Pay attention to it, whether you should act on it or just let it flow through you. And then there's a lifting. So the swirl, the SWIRL, the swirl, the rage, and then the lifting. The lifting is when you come out of it and you go back to life. I love the analogy. I think it applies to what we're going through right now. Is we had a shattering of our lives. We had a withdrawal and an internalization. Is there something I could have done, or something I can do? A rage, like this isn't fair. I got to change this. I'm angry. Why do we need that? To get into action. Good morning, Renee. And then lift out of it. The big thing is re-engage with life. And so when you feel the anger, the intense emotions, re-engage with what you're truly committed to. It's important to have something, some kind of purpose, something with meaning that you can re-engage with. Have the anger, let it flow through you. Make it useful if you need to, but re-engage with what you want to create. So I just, the thought Is there good anger? Is there bad anger? Anger is useful. Let's say it that way. Not good or bad. It's useful. Some people could say, oh, there's righteous anger, looking at Jesus. He got mad and tore down the tables at the temple. Yeah, I mean, it was useful in that case to be angry, right? That would make sense. There are times where I've used anger to turn a situation around. And so it can be a useful tool to accomplish goals. But when it gets out of control, then it's no longer useful. When we are not conscious of it, it's no longer useful. Like I started this message with the guy that went to jail last night. Probably not useful at that point. So you guys make it a giant day. Please share your comments. I will see you in the next video. As always, these are all things that I see as us becoming giants, is learning about our bodies and how to control difficult emotions and work through those, especially right now where we're all a little bit vulnerable to what's going on, to pay attention to how you respond to it and ask yourself, is this useful or is it not useful? And if it's useful, then act on it, then use it. And if it's not useful, then don't. That's what I would say. So again, I appreciate you guys being here. I appreciate your support and helping me grow my book and my Kickstarter. You guys have been amazing on that. We're almost halfway there. I've got 10 days to go. So if you'll continue to share, that would be awesome. If you think this video would help somebody, please share it. And I will see you in the next video.